I recently finished reading the Warden's Operation Manual for Mothership and have a big takeaway after reading this that I want to share. Welcome to Solitary RPG. If you've been a fan of my channel and been watching my monthly journal pages, you know I received my Mothership rewards from the Kickstarter. And I've been, perusing the information, but I did spend some time just diving into the Warden's Operation Manual. I love reading GM books and reading about GM advice because I can always pull from that information to help improve my solo gaming. And there's something about this manual that really resonated with me. And if you watched review videos, you might have heard people talk about this piece of advice that really I think the authors went above and beyond by putting that information in this whole manual that really can get someone motivated to play Mothership, or you could take this same advice and apply it to other games as well. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We're just going to jump right into it. We're going to start talking about the Warden's Operation Manual. Just like any kind of indie product, we're seeing better use of the layouts in the book, using the back cover to give you charts and all that great stuff. Obviously giving you some warning because Mothership is a horror game, so you want to be fully aware of that. The book jumps right into preparing your first session, and I think this is such great advice. It's not getting into the what is a GM, what is the responsibilities of a GM. It's not talking about like safety tools. It doesn't really even start talking about any of that kind of information until you get into later in the book, like page 24 is when it starts talking about like safety tools, because it is a horror game and you want to make sure people understand what they're getting into. But all up until then, it's all about prepping your session and getting things going. And it's step one that really resonated with me that I want to talk about, because it just happens to solve some of the problems with people learning to play solo or encouraging people to set up and become a GM and set up your game. And I'm just going to read step one for you. Get organized. Grab a cheap notebook and a pen. On the cover, in big block letters, write Mothership Campaign Notebook. Turn to the first page and label it Index. Then flip to the last page and label it Roster. Finally, flip to the second page, write the page number in one corner and title it Session 01 Prep. And so why is this great advice? This is great advice because it breaks you through the resistance of trying to play solo or trying to be a GM or getting over the GM prep. Resistance is the one thing that will bury a person, because we are resistant to start something because we're trying to be perfect. We're resistant to start something because we don't fully understand it. We, as people, have this idea or this concept that if we're not good at something the first time, we're just not going to be able to do it, and we give up because we allow resistance to push us down and bully us around and take over us. And I really appreciate those people that don't allow resistance to stop them. Usually it's children. If you ever really watch children, they don't have a care in the world. They will just go out and build something. They don't care what it looks like. They'll just go out and draw something. They don't care what it looks like. They are not restricted by this idea of perfection. And this idea of perfection is what will keep someone from wanting to play solo. I don't get a lot of comments on my videos, but I hear other channels talk about how they get these comments about how do you get started? How do you do this? How, like asking these questions, they're looking for these answers. And for the most part, playing solo or being a GM, the best way to do it is just start. And this piece of advice right here, Grab a cheap notebook. One of the things that resistance will bury you under is you buy a journal. You can buy a fancy journal. You just buy a composition book journal, whatever. You're just afraid to write in it because you can't correct it. Who cares? And that's why they're saying just grab a cheap notebook. Grab a spiral bound page, line page notebook. Get over that idea that you have to have a journal, like a fancy $50 journal or something pretty. Screw that. Grab a cheap notebook. I just grabbed this one. It's something I had in my stack of notebooks that I didn't like. I don't like the texture, so I said screw it, and I made this my Mothership campaign notebook. And write on it. Just write out. Who cares what it looks like? Who cares if your penmanship is bad? Who cares if you misspell words? Resistance with misspelling words will keep people from exploring things. My spelling is terrible because I've relied too much on computers for a majority of my adult life. I've forgotten, some of the rules of spelling. Get over that. If you misspell a word, who cares? Just stop allowing resistance to keep you from moving forward. And that's why I think this advice is good. And then it dives into what you need to do with your notebook. So it's like, turn to page 1 and do the index. I did it on my back cover because I wanted to follow the advice from the note, the design of the zine using the cover. So I put my index here. I left me some blank pages because I don't know how many I'll need. So I just left me some blank pages. If they don't get used, I don't care. Here's my session 1 prep. I just put a page number on and I just started walking through the steps that are outlined in this instruction for preparing your session. And I went to the back and put a roster. It's probably just going to be my name on here because I don't have friends to play with, so I'll play by myself, but I still am following the instructions. And then they give you this example right here in the Warden's manual on what you're supposed to do. Like if you go through all these prep steps, you're going to have this information laid out. And what's really great about this Warden's manual is this idea of writing in your journal, writing in your Mothership journal is carried all the way through. So, suggestion, after reading this, and now I'm going to be going through and rereading it because I should have did this at the beginning, is you will have a session prepped out by the time you're done. If you read this manual, it will actually walk you through all of the steps, giving you the information about, creating a horror. Just it gives you tips and ideas, but it's going to continue to tell you to write in your journal, and it will actually give you page samples as you go. Like right here is how to draw a map. Gives you all the steps, and it's telling you to grab your journal and start doing. You don't have to draw a map. One of the things that will keep, we're not all artists. I follow some channels, great artists out there. I'm not one of them. If you come to this channel looking for how to draw dungeon maps or anything like that, I'm sorry to tell you, you're in the wrong place. I can draw boxes. I know how to use dot grids, and I know how to use graph paper to draw great boxes. I can't draw a circle to save my life. But give me some graph paper and I'll draw you a dungeon out and it'll be a bunch of boxes and lines. I can do that, but I can't do the fancy stuff, and I don't care. Get over that. And that is another piece of great advice from this Warden's Operation Manual. Just draw boxes and arrows and just put labels in. Breaking resistance. Getting over those concepts that we put in our heads that everything needs to look like it does on the channel. I paint miniatures. I'm not a great miniature painter. I get it. I don't care. I still paint miniatures because I enjoy painting miniatures, and I don't let resistance keep me from exploring new colors. One of my sayings that I tell people is to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Get outside of your comfort zone. And this puts you outside your comfort zone if you've been resistant to explore and try to being a GM or playing solo. Get out of that that comfort zone that you're in and get uncomfortable and be comfortable being uncomfortable. I know that's a twist on words. And that's what this is doing. And this is why I resonated so much with this Warden's manual, because it's all about just doing and not looking for perfection. It's lowering that bar of expectations that we put on ourselves, trying to be perfect, striving to be perfect, striving to emulate what other people are doing. Look, playing solo, you are entertaining yourself. You are creating your own expectations. Stop comparing yourself to what other people are doing and just do what makes you happy. And that was my big takeaway from this Warden's Operation Manual that I don't feel is being shared as much on YouTube. How this manual is designed in such a way to get you moving in the right direction, giving you all the tools. Yes, it's focused on Mothership, but this idea of just grabbing a cheap journal, writing on this journal, the journal, whatever campaign you want to play, and just going through and just setting things up and getting things started will just break through that resistance. Resistance hates people that are doing. Resistance wants to keep us in submission and doesn't want us to grow and explore. And that's why you got to break through it. And I think this is probably one of the better, I'm going to call it a game master manual that I've read. And I've read a lot of them because I do like reading them. I think game master manuals, even if it's for a game you're not going to play, they all have great advice in them. And they're just good to read. And yeah, you may not take away a lot. I don't think I've ever read a bad game master manual or game master advice. I just maybe not have taken away as much from certain books or certain authors. I still have taken away something from them because I'm always looking for concepts that I may be able to implement into my gaming, and I just keep reading, and that's what I like to do. This section here is talking about your starting area. It's a space game, so this is more like a space map, but we're just put circles and lines and squares and boxes. Don't overcomplicate everything. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking to get started. So, and here we're still talking about our campaign notebook. It's your closest ally for you in being a GM or running a Mothership campaign. I just love how they used a composition book, very old school, and I write in mine composition books daily because that's the book I'll use for journaling, because I don't want to spend a lot of money on fancy journals. I just use 99-cent composition books for journaling, which is awesome. And then here, more information. Like, love the spreadsheet talking about all the different components for these different types of games that you might want to play for, like survival, psychological, slasher, just those different things and the things you want to think about and create in your game, which is just awesome. So a lot of the information in the Mothership Warden's Operation Manual is specific to Mothership, and that's how a manual like this should be. But it's that piece of advice that I feel is being talked about in this manual that I wanted to touch base on, which is breaking resistance. Just get started. Just start doing something and get over this idea that you have to be perfect, that you have to have your game needs to look like somebody else's game, or your session needs to look like somebody else's session. No, it doesn't. You're creating your own world. You're doing your own thing. But grab your notebook, grab your Warden's Operation Manual, sit down and just start following the steps. And by the time you're done reading this, you are going to have your campaign set up for Mothership, which is cool, but you can take this concept and apply it to any solo RPG game or role-playing game that you want, because it's just getting you moving in the right direction. So anyways, I just wanted to share. I was super excited after I finished reading this, and it just resonated so much with where my life is right now, of breaking through resistance and doing things that make me uncomfortable, and I'm okay with being uncomfortable. That's how life is supposed to be. So have a wonderful day. Take care.